The topic for the day is risk-based thinking, risk assessment, and risk management. So, all the ISO standards, the management system standards, have been tuned to have a systematic approach of considering risk. Risk here is more of a prevention component rather than a different component of management system. It's more of the prevention thing. That's why the risk-based thinking has been incorporated into the ISO standards. So most of us are aware of that risk is an effect of uncertainty and is inherent in all processes of management system. So risk is everywhere. Whereas risk is there in all system, all process, all functions. And this risk-based thinking ensures that the risks are identified, considered, and controlled in a systematic way, in such a way that risk is integral part of the management system. If you see the older standard of the quality management system, you could see a clause on the preventive action, which is separated from the whole. But in this standard, we are using current standard, the Annex SL or the standard management system standard MSS high level, addresses risk as risk-based thinking as one of the integral part of the standard itself. So there is no reactive, it is a proactive approach, and risk is prevented or reduced through early identification and action. That is the key point here. So the risk-based thinking is a built-in component of the management system. And let's take the example of crossing a road. When I cross a road with traffic, before I would start crossing, I would see at the both sides of the road to see if there are any moving vehicles on the road. I would also have a look at the signals, and I would ensure that I'm on the zebra crossing before starting crossing the road. So this is the risk assessment of crossing a road. Knowing that any moving vehicles could hit on us is the risk that we have understood. And whatever I have done to mitigate that is the mitigation plan. So unlike the separate preventive action that was part of the earlier management system standards, now it is integrated into planning, integrated into operations, integrated into analysis, and integrated into evaluation activities as well. Not all the processes or the activities represent the same level of risk in terms of the organization's ability to meet the objectives. Some may need more careful and formal planning. Some may need more controls than others. So let's go back to some other example. If there is a footbridge constructed over the road, I would use the footbridge. That would avoid the total risk of crossing the road. But not all the places have footbridge, so I need to cross the road. If that is the only option, then I'll have to take the mitigation actions accordingly. When we use the term risk, it's always used in the negative connotation. So we always think about the negative consequences of a risk. However, the risk can have effects that can either be negative or it could be sometimes positive as well. When you go for some risk, identify some risk and go for it, there could be some opportunities as well. So whatever management system standard it is, if it is ISO 9001 2015 or 14001 2015, 45001 2018 or 27001 2013, all of these address risk and opportunities. They cite risk and opportunities together. Opportunity is not the positive side of risk, but an opportunity could be a set of circumstances which makes it possible to do something. Once we identify risk, we may end up doing something to mitigate that, and that could have a positive effect. So risk and opportunities are clubbed here or combined here or cited together. But it could also be the consideration of potential changes as well, any possibilities for changes. So the analysis of situation always shows some opportunities for improvement. Let's take the case of crossing the road. A subway leading directly under the road could be an opportunity. It could be a different thing, or a traffic lights, or it could be diverting the road so that the area has no traffic. These are the opportunities that could arise from the mitigation plans of the risk. So, where is the risk addressed in the management system standards, be it any of the management system standard? Where is it addressed? It's addressed in all the six or seven clauses that are auditable. Clause 4 has this processes for which context, determination of context, that helps in addressing the risks and opportunities. And top management always have to promote awareness of risk-based thinking, and they also address the risk and opportunities. And there is an requirement to identify risk and opportunities related to performance and take appropriate actions. Actions to address risks and opportunities is part of clause 6. Sometimes aspect impact HERA also comes in when it is the EMS or OHSMS standard. Or for ISMS also, the risk-based thinking is there in clause 6.1. So clause 7, the organization is required to determine and provide necessary resources. Again, here the risk is implicit. Whatever is required in the organizational context perspective has to be considered here. So in the clause 8, the organization is required to manage its operational process. Again, the risk may be implicit here as well. And the monitoring of risk as required in the clause 9, monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation, the organization is required to monitor. And these are the actions taken to address the risks and opportunities. Again, the reduction or prevention of the undesired effect to improve the management system, and the updation of risk and opportunities is part of clause 10 as well. So it is addressed literally in every clause of the management system standards, ISO standards. So the risk-based thinking is a proactive approach. It's a proactive improvement culture that you are bringing in with the assistance of the statutory and regulatory compliance, and it can also improve the governance, and it assures some kind of consistency in terms of quality products and services as well, in terms of the impact on the environment or impact on the work safety or occupational health. Everything is addressed by risk-based thinking, and it also improves satisfaction of the interested parties. So how do we assess the risk? Risk and opportunities can be assessed through identification of process. Process has to be mapped. What is input? What is output? What are the sequence? What are the interactions? And then the measuring methods, resources, responsibilities, and monitoring methods, opportunities for improvement. All these are considerations of process, and we need to identify the risk and opportunities in the process, plan actions to address them, and implement those actions that have been identified. So the risk management, we all know that the risk is the combination of probability of an event and its consequence. So consequence could be a positive consequence or it could be a negative consequence. So the risk management process is a systematic process of understanding, evaluating, and addressing these risks to maximize the chance of objectives being achieved. So you have two parameters here, minimal two parameters. It could be more as well. So one is the impact, another is the likelihood. We could have a matrix, and we could identify which is acceptable, which is unacceptable, and it could be minor, moderate, major, or unlikely, likely, very likely. The scenarios could be in accordance with the context of the organization. So the key point here is to assess the consequence and the probability and define an acceptance criteria. This acceptance criteria could be the key point, and there could be some mitigation measures as well. Sometimes we'll have to accept the risk, and there must be some cost in the mitigation control where the cost is not justified. Then we need to accept the risk and be aware of it, and we have to have different ideas for the improvement of the process as well. From the that comes as an output of the risk management. So identifying risk should improve the effectiveness of the process. It should increase the productivity. It should enhance the productivity. It should help in time management. It should make the process efficient, and it should reduce the cost. To summarize, the process risk assessment may be the identification of activity, the potential hazards, or the undesired outcome that could happen. And once the risk is assessed, the risk assessment may be, as I said, could be through likelihood and impact, and there could be a set control measure. And there may be some resource who is set responsible for this, and it is defined with the due date, and the action items can be addressed by the responsible person within the agreed timelines. The risk assessment should be a dynamic document, and it should help to set the strategic and business planning. And it must help in the effective utilization of the resources, and also to reduce the undesired outcomes, which means it can improve the possibility, and it should help in finding new opportunities for the improvement of the management system. And it should aid in better communication. The effective communication has to happen. For that, we need to identify the risks in communications as well, and it should help the stakeholders, and it should help focusing on the business with all the risks as well. Of course, the documentation part is always difficult for many, and most of the organizations have a different risk assessment methodology, wherein the documentation is more in some, uh, but it should be identical to the context of the organization. The degree of depth of the risk assessment should be in line with the risks associated with the organization and the changes that the organization, it could be an internal change or external change, those changes, based on that, the depth of the risk assessment should be agreed upon, and it should be done. Never over document anything. Risk assessment is required, and it has to be, it's like a medicine, it has to be in the right count. Otherwise, if it exceeds also, there is a problem. If it is not there also, it could be a problem. Right. Hope you had a good time listening to the risk-based thinking, risk management, and risk assessment part of it. So hope to see you with a similar blog on some other topic. Till then, take care. Bye bye.